let me say at the outset what an extraordinary job my colleague from California has done. There was a time in American history before law schools when people read the law and practiced the law. You have not only read the law, you have written many laws, and your competence in advocating this important constitutional question has been proven over and over again. So I thank you for having the determination and courage to stand up for your convictions against some who would be critical of anyone who broaches this subject. And it is a controversial subject. We're talking about the security of Americans. We're talking about terrorism, and we all remember just a few years ago when our lives were interrupted, a time when we'll never forget, when terrorists attacked the United States and killed 3,000 innocent American people on 9/11. And we came together in this Congress, Democrats and Republicans, and said, we need to keep this country safe. We never want that to happen again. And we passed new laws suggested by President George W. Bush, enacted by Democrats and Republicans in Congress. We created new agencies like the TSA, security agency at airports. We empowered our intelligence branches, which Senator Feinstein has a particular responsibility for as chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. We gave them more people, we gave them more technology, we gave them more authority and said, keep us safe. We said to our military, we want you to be the best in the world and continue to be, and we will provide the resources for that to happen. Then we turned, as Senator Feinstein has noted, to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and we said we are going to dramatically increase your numbers and give you the technology that you need to keep us safe. And here we are some 10 years later, and what can we say? We can say, thanks to the leadership of President George W. Bush and Barack Obama, 9/11 was not repeated, and we never want it repeated. And we can also say that with very few exceptions, in the 10 years since 9/11, that we have done all these things consistent with America's values and principles. Other countries, and you see them even today, faced with uncertainty and insecurity, throw out all of the rules of human conduct, even to the point of killing their own people in the streets to maintain order. Thank God that never has occurred in the United States, and I pray it never will, because those of us who are elected to represent our states here in the United States Senate take an oath that we are going to uphold and defend a Constitution with its values and principles. We understand that taking that oath may mean that we are accepting due process, and due process says a fair day in court for someone accused of a crime. Other countries dispense with that. They don't need a trial. They find someone suspected of a crime, whatever it might be, that person is given summary execution, and that's the end of the story. No questions asked. We don't do it that way in America. We establish standards of conduct and justice, and particularly as it relates to the people who live in America, our citizens and legal residents who are here in the United States. That is what this debate is about. This is an important bill, S. 1867. It comes up every year in a variety of different forms, and we're lucky to have Senator Carl Levin and Senator John McCain, who put more hours into it than you can imagine, to write the bill to authorize the Department of Defense to do its job. It's the best military in the world, and their hard work makes certain that it stays in that position. But this provision that they have added in this bill, I think, is a serious mistake. Serious. Serious enough for me to support Senator Feinstein in her efforts to change and remove the language. Why? First, we know that the law enforcement officials in the United States of America, the Attorney General's office, the FBI, have done a good job in keeping America safe. They have arrested, incidentally, over 300 suspected terrorists in the United States, over 300 of them, and they have tried them in the criminal courts of America, on trial in public for the world to see that these people will be held to the standards of trial as an American citizen. Of those 300, they have successfully prosecuted over 300 alleged terrorists, then incarcerated them in the prisons of America, including Marion, Illinois, in my home state, where they're safely and humanely incarcerated. The message to the world is we're going to keep America safe but we're going to do it playing by the rules that make us America. And due process is one of those rules. And it has worked. It has worked under 2 administrations. Now comes this bill and a suggestion that we need to change the rules. The suggestion is, in this measure, that we will do something that has not been done in America before. Section 1031 of this bill, for the first time in the history of America, will authorize the indefinite detention of American citizens in the United States. This is unprecedented. In my view, as chair of the Constitution Subcommittee of Senate Judiciary, it raises serious constitutional concerns. Senator Levin, Senator McCain disagree. In an op-ed piece for the Washington Post, they recently wrote, quote, "No provision in the legislation expands the authority under which detainees can be held in military custody," end of quote. But look at the plain language of Section 1031. There is no exclusion for United States citizens. And so the question is, if you believe that an American citizen is guilty or will be guilty of acts of terrorism, can you detain them indefinitely? Can you ignore their constitutional rights and hold them indefinitely without warning them of their right to remain silent, without advising them of their right to counsel, without giving them the basic protections of our Constitution? I don't believe that that should be the standard. I listened to Senator McCain. He makes a pretty compelling argument. Wait a minute. You're telling me that if you've got someone in front of you that you think is a terrorist who could repeat 9/11, you're going to read their Miranda rights to them? Well, as an American citizen, yes, I would. And I would say to Senator McCain, the same argument would apply if that person in front of me was not a suspected terrorist, but a suspected serial killer, a suspected sexual predator. We read them their Miranda rights. We believe that our system of justice can work with those rights being read. Do you remember the case, and it was about 2 years ago, of the person who was on the airplane, the underwear bomber, Abdul Muttalib? He was coming to the United States to blow up that airplane and kill all the people on board, and thank God he failed. He tried to ignite a bomb, and his clothing went on fire, and the other passengers jumped on him, subdued him, and he was arrested. This man, not an American citizen, was taken off the plane and interrogated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And after he stopped talking voluntarily, they read him his Miranda rights. We all know them from the crime shows that we watch on TV. Right to remain silent. Everything you say will be used against you. Right to retain counsel. He was read all those things, and he shut up. But that wasn't the end of the story. By the next day, they were back interrogating him, and they had contacted his parents, brought his parents to this country. He met with his parents and turned and said, "I'll cooperate. I'll tell you everything I know." And he started talking, and he didn't stop. At the end of the day, he was charged with terrible, serious crimes, brought to trial in Detroit, and pled guilty under our criminal system. Now, he wasn't an American citizen, but even playing by the rules for American citizens, we successfully prosecuted this would-be bomber and terrorist. What is the message behind that? The message behind that is we will stand by our principles and values and still keep America safe. We will trust the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice to successfully prosecute suspected and alleged terrorists. We will not surrender our principles even as we fight terrorism every single day. Now, this bill changes, unfortunately, a fundamental aspect of that. And it said if an American citizen is detained and suspected to be involved in terrorism with al-Qaeda or other groups, they can be held indefinitely without being given their constitutional rights. I appreciate Senator Levin and Senator McCain have said they're willing to consider excluding U.S. persons, but Section 1031 doesn't. I hope that they do.